In the last 24 hours, some new details have emerged regarding the strike on senior members of the terrorist organization Hamas in Khan Yunis on Saturday. The IDF issued a statement confirming that Brigadier General Rafa'a Salameh, the commander of the Khan Yunis division, was eliminated in the strike, while the fate of Hamas Chief of Staff Mohammed Deif is still unclear. Elsewhere, the IDF eliminated terrorists who were about to take over humanitarian aid in Rafah, and the IDF also revealed further details about the tunnel network it has discovered running under the Philadelphia corridor. On the northern front, the IDF attacked positions of the Iranian-backed terrorist organization Hezbollah in southern Lebanon and continues to prepare for the possibility of a full-scale war on this front. Finally, the United States Navy reports that it destroyed the 3 Houthi drones in the Red Sea area. So let's dive into the details. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your boots on the ground report about what is happening in Israel on the 283rd day of the war against Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, and all its terror proxies in Yemen, Syria, and Iraq. The IDF has announced that in the last 24 hours, it has launched airstrikes on several terrorists who are operating in the area of the Umrah school in Abu Arban in the Nusirat area. The building was used for terrorists as a hiding place and an active operative location from which the terrorists planned and carried out terrorist operations against our forces operating in the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, a day after the strike on the Hamas compound located inside the designated safe zone on the El Mawasi in Khan Yunis, the IDF and the Shin Bet officially confirmed that the commander of the Yunis Brigade, Rafa'a Salameh, was eliminated in the attack. There is still no official announcement regarding the fate of Mohammed Deif, the head of the military wing of Hamas. According to Palestinian sources, more than 90 people were killed in the attack, and the hospital was quickly transformed into a fortified Hamas stronghold with heavy compartmentalization. This was done in order to make it more difficult for Israeli intelligence to identify if one of those that were hit was Mohammed Deif. Israeli intelligence has been tracking Brigadier General Rafa'a Salameh for a long time and recently determined that he was coming to the villa and compound belonging to his family, but they decided not to eliminate him, assuming and hoping that at some point Mohammed Deif would join him there as well, presenting an opportunity to get them both at the same time. The elimination of Salameh was confirmed after a long surveillance of the compound in the west of Khan Yunis, which was a villa surrounded by palm trees that belonged to his family. He has spent more and more time there in recent months after the IDF took over some of his other compounds in the city, both above and below the ground. According to Israeli security officials, Salameh spent most of his time in the tunnels, but visited the villa alongside his family members and other armed men when he needed a break from the suffocating heat inside the tunnels. On Friday, intelligence officers received information suggesting that Deif has been seen with Salameh in the compound. The news has passed up the chain of command to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who approved the operation almost immediately. IDF jets struck the compound a short time later using at least 5 guided missiles. The attack created a large crater in the compound near the villa. The attack also struck a site inside the humanitarian zone, but IDF sources said that the efforts were made to reduce the risk to the civilians. This is even though the Hamas leaders were shamelessly using them as human shields in the hopes that this would keep them safe from an Israeli attack. IDF Chief of Staff Herzi Halevi issued a statement: "We are determined to continue pursuing the senior Hamas officials who planned the massacre and dedicated their lives to the murder of innocents." Deif was afraid to die, and so he hid in a way that harmed his ability to command. He hid and sacrificed his men and civilians who were around him, although few were hurt. These assassinations are part of the pressure that the IDF is exerting on all parts of Gaza. Every day, there are many Hamas casualties. So guys, please continue to spread the truth and follow us on social media and subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you're looking for a way to directly support the small businesses and farmers in Israel, especially during these challenging times, Artza Box, our sponsor of today's show, is your answer. By subscribing to Artza at www.artzabox.com, Artza allows you to support Israel's economy and savor the diverse flavors, scents, and craftsmanship of the Holy Land. As a special offer for you, our viewers, go to artzabox.com and enter the code TBNIL to receive an exclusive 10% discount on your Artza Box subscription. Thank you for your support. Now back to the news. In Gaza City, the IDF reports that close-range battles have occurred over the last 24 hours, including an incident involving soldiers of the Alexandroni Reserve Brigade. A terrorist squad was detected moving in the area and attempting to plant a bomb near the soldiers, but the Air Force detected and attacked this squad, leading to its elimination. This is one of many examples showing that despite the operation meant to decapitate the Hamas leadership in Khan Yunis, the fighting in the Gaza Strip continues. Another example was provided by soldiers of the Nahal Brigade who used sniper fire and maneuver to eliminate Hamas terrorists in Rafah who were trying to steal humanitarian aid shipments coming into the city. According to the reports, overnight Saturday and Sunday, these terrorists set up an ambush for the trucks carrying the aid, but the Nahal soldiers of the IDF were able to detect the ambush and move to thwart it. Attempts by Hamas terrorists to hijack aid shipments into the Gaza Strip is nothing new, and the IDF has reacted to many such attempts. But it seems that in this case, the IDF was able to identify it and react in real time before the ambush could be launched. The Nahal Brigade soldiers have been heavily engaged with Hamas terrorists in recent days, fighting off several attempts to attack them and eliminating dozens of terrorists. The 401st Brigade's combat team has also been hard at work destroying several tunnels and capturing large quantities of weapons and ammunition meant to be used against IDF troops. But the main mission of the IDF in Rafah is to find and demolish the smuggling tunnels running underneath the Philadelphia corridor, which marks the border between Egypt and Rafah in Gaza. These tunnels are the main source of supply for Hamas. All the weapons and ammunitions, money, narcotics, components for manufacturing rockets and other contraband that Hamas brings into the Gaza Strip comes through these tunnels. Without this oxygen pipe, Hamas will never die. Hamas turned Rafah, which is adjacent to the Philadelphia corridor, into a huge, trapped, and dangerous fighting place filled with explosives. This exposed the civilian population to great danger, while the Hamas terrorists descended into the underground tunnels from which they operate. The buildings above ground are used by observation posts for Hamas. Hamas uses cameras and human scouts, often civilian children, to watch the IDF forces and plan attacks against them. IDF forces have found cameras meant to monitor above-ground movements in the buttons of sofas, on door frames, in mosques, clinics, and schools all over Rafah and the other cities in the Gaza Strip. When the IDF took control over the Philadelphia corridor, it discovered sites for launching rockets into the center of Israel. These sites were destroyed, and it has been weeks since a large barrage of rockets was fired into Israel from southern Gaza. However, the underground offensive of Hamas is enabled by the underground tunnels that run under the border with neighboring Egypt. The Hamas terrorists are trained to stay underground for months if necessary, and although the IDF controls about half of the city above the ground, Hamas has the ability to keep fighting. The IDF has freedom of action above the ground, but at any moment, a terrorist might emerge from a previously unknown tunnel and fire anti-tank missiles at them before diving back into the tunnel. In this way, Hamas shows its supporters that it is still fighting Israel and surviving even though it has lost the war in every meaningful way. Hamas believes that simply by surviving and preventing the IDF from completely uprooting them from their network of tunnels, they will be able to claim a victory and score propaganda points. This makes it necessary for the IDF to use unconventional means to try and root out these Hamas terrorists and force them into the open where they can be destroyed. The more terrorists the IDF eliminates, the closer we will get to overthrowing Hamas. But this must also be accompanied by the destruction of the smuggling tunnels, and the IDF estimates that it needs another 2 to 4 months to complete this mission. Some of these tunnels are fully explored, while others are simply demolished as soon as they are discovered. All of this raises the question about how long the IDF will need to keep control of the Philadelphia corridor. Although there is hope that the IDF will not need to deploy forces on this border forever, it is obvious that in order to maximize the achievements that have already been won, a strong system to monitor this border will need to be built and maintained for a very long time. So please continue to spread the truth, share this video on YouTube, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Take a minute, click the follow button, and help us spread the truth. Switching our focus to the north, the IDF forces deployed in the Galilee and along the borders with Lebanon and Syria are engaged in vigorous training to prepare for what lies ahead. Last week, the fighters of the 5th Brigade held a brigade exercise led by the Land Training Center, MLI. As part of the exercise, the troops practiced movement capabilities in a complicated terrain, progress on a mountainous route, and the activation of fire and collecting means. While this training is going on, the Air Force continues to regularly hit Hezbollah targets inside Lebanon. In the last 24 hours, the IDF attacked in 5 different areas in southern Lebanon, resulting in the destruction of several Hezbollah targets. Among them was a launcher in the Rab Atalatin area that fired at Kiryat Shmona a few hours earlier. Also hit were a terrorist infrastructure in the Ait el-Shaib area, an observation post in the El Adaisa area, infrastructure for terrorism in the Kfar Kila area next to a military structure, and another terrorist infrastructure in the Hula area. In addition, the military structure of the organization was attacked in the Hula region of southern Lebanon. Over the weekend, 4 IDF soldiers were injured by shrapnel from incoming rockets that were intercepted in the skies over northern Israel. Damage was also observed to several border communities, which remain empty as their residents were evacuated soon after the hostilities began and remain entirely displaced refugees in their own country. Here at TBN Israel, we will continue to update you on these developments, but please follow and share us, and most importantly, pray. Pray for the peace of the IDF soldiers. Pray for the peace of Israel. Pray for the civilians that are affected by this conflict. And most importantly, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And together, we will win this war.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.